Hi guys, Zyger here and welcome back to another Unity tutorial. In today's tutorial I will be showing you how to make the minimap that is on the screen right now. It's very simple and it's a beginner tutorial, so without further ado, let's dive in. Before I start though, I just want to say if you want to get access to this project and plenty of other projects that I've made in the past and projects that I am going to be making, go ahead and become a patron with the link in the description below. You help me out and you also get some cool stuff in return. But either way, let's begin. Okay, so today we're going to be making a minimap using a render texture, which is probably the easiest way that you can do this. However, there is multiple other ways. To start, we're going to make a new camera by right-clicking on the hierarchy and making a camera. I'm just going to name this Minimap Camera. On here, there's a couple things we need to do. First of all, we need to set the transform to the same as the player. So right-click on our player, right-click, copy component. On our minimap, we're going to right-click here and paste component values. Right now, our minimap is on the same position as the player, however, I'm going to increase the Y value to maybe 25. I'm also going to rotate it on the X-axis so it's facing downwards like a minimap would. Finally, I'm going to change the projection to orthographic. And you can see it's a little far too zoomed in, so you can use this size here to zoom in and out however much you want. But I'm just going to keep it at probably maybe 9. After doing this, we need to go ahead and right click here, press create, and we need to make a render texture. I'm going to call this minimap render texture. So with that done, I'm going to take note of the size, however be aware that you can change this. Currently it's 256. I'm going to make a new canvas, which is just UI and canvas. This is basically just going to display on top of our camera. I'm going to go into 2D mode by pressing this button right now. It's basically just easy to look at things. On this canvas, I'm going to press UI and then raw image. Using a raw image, we will display the projection of the camera. So let's set the width and height to the same value of our minimap render. Now be aware this isn't necessary, but if you do this, it's basically going to be the best quality it can. Then drag your minimap render texture in. Currently, it's obviously nothing because we haven't set that up. So to set this up, click on your camera and where it says target texture, drag in your render texture thingy. And bam, you can see we have a minimap here. If you go into play mode with this on, you will see that our player moves fine. However, the camera doesn't follow the player. So let's go ahead and set that up. It's not going to be too long and it's going to be really simple. So we basically need our camera to follow the player. So technically we can make it a child of the player, but I don't like personally doing it as it's not something that I typically do. So instead I'm going to make a simple script, call it camera follow. Oh, I should also mention we can remove the audio listener as it's not required. Let's open up our script and let's get into the coding. Okay, so we are in here and we're going to be making some simple stuff. Go ahead and delete this start option and change this update to a late update like so. We first of all need to make a reference to our player, so let's make a public transform called player. And now we can go ahead and do the camera movement. So I'm going to make a new vector 3 called camera follow position, which is going to be equal to the player dot position. Like so. Then I'm going to make sure that a camera follow position dot y is equal to the transform dot position dot y. This basically means that our camera is not going to keep the same y value as the player because obviously we want it to be higher or up because we want the higher view. Pretty simple. Finally, we're going to set the transform dot position to equal the camera follow position. Simple as such. We can save that and we can go back into Unity. Then in Unity, let's drag our player into the transform, and now if we go into game mode, you will see our camera works fine. It follows the player and it's pretty cool. I could end this right here, but I want to show you some cool little tips of how to make this camera just a little bit better, I guess. So on our raw image, let's go back into 2D mode, and I'll show you a quick way of making a cool little border, I guess. So right click on your canvas and press UI image. Now I know that our size is 256, so I'm going to make this a little bit bigger to 265. I'm then going to make this raw image the child of this and set the position to 0, 0 and 0. If I double click on this, you will see that it has moved like so. So let's move this to wherever we want. We can just rename this minimap. I should also mention you can set the sprite to whatever you want, or you can just play around with the color. For example, make it nice and orange, let's say. Another few cool things that you can do is, for example, let's say I don't want my camera to render something. So I have these particles right here. And you can see I can press play and they are normal and fine. If I go into game though, you will see that they render on the camera. Now this might not be something that I want, so let's go ahead and change that. And how do we do it? Well, it's very simple. Click on your layer and add a new layer. And I'm just gonna call it whatever. I've already made some layers right here, so let's just call it test 1, I guess. And then on our particles, let's assign the layer test 1. If we now go into our camera, there's a really cool thing called culling mask, and we can basically just untick this test 1, which now means that anything that's on the layer of test 1 will not render on the minimap. So the particles are still there, but they don't show on our camera, which is really awesome. A final thing I want to show you is how to add icons to different things. On the screen right now you can see some examples of minimaps, and you can see that these players and stuff have icons. So for example, I don't like the way the bean or the player looks on the minimap, so let's change that. On our player, I'm going to right click and create an empty object. I'm going to call this minimap icon. On here, I'm going to add a sprite renderer. And then finally, let's assign a sprite. I don't have any custom ones, but you can have custom ones if you want, so I'm just going to use this cool little UI sprite thing. And I'm going to set the color to maybe like green or something. Currently we can't really see it because it's too small, so let's set the size to maybe like 9x9. And we can kind of see it. But let's rotate it by 90 degrees so it's this way up. And increase the height to something where our player won't see but it's noticeable by the camera. So if we now go into game mode, you will see what will happen. As you can see, our player is now a green dot on the camera, which is something different. And this is really cool because you can apply this to other buildings and other things, and it genuinely looks really awesome when you use custom sprites. But anyway guys, this is it for today's tutorial on how to make a cool minimap. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, subscribe because we are nearly at 1,000 subscribers on this channel, and if you haven't already, check out my main channel where I do a load of awesome stuff. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later.